All right. So I want to ask you, what went through your mind as you walked to work each day this week?
Um, Honestly, at first I really was resenting walking to work, especially that day I was maybe a teensy bit hungover. But I think I really enjoyed it. There were so many things that it reminded me of how we're disconnected to our place. I overshot my office by 6 blocks the first day I walked, which really goes to show that I just have no concept of space when I drive. And it's been nice. At first I was frustrated, but I started to talk to my neighbors and I'd see them in the morning, and there's some really cute old men who like to be out in their gardens in the morning, which I think is sweet. It gave me a better sense of this town, and it made me actually like it more than I did. And seeing how the people live here has been really great. The other thing I was thinking was, how on earth would this be possible with a child? It would be absolutely. The reason I did this experiment was to see what it was like to live as one of my clients. And actually, while I was in the office one day, we had a client have to phone in late because of the bus schedule, and they're on the south side of Billings, which is over an hour walk to work. And so how can you make it to a 9 o'clock appointment when the bus doesn't start until 8:30? Or how can you make it to a 9 o'clock appointment when you can't drop off your kids at daycare until 7 or 8? So there are a lot of complications there. And honestly, on my walk home, I was just glad that I wasn't really at work for 11 hours. I came home and finished the 11 hours. Otherwise, I would have been walking home at 7 o'clock at night in the dark when it's not safe, which really is a huge problem, especially if you have kids. And how are you going to get there to pick them up? It's just kind of impossible. It's really, really not possible to be without a car and get things done that you need to get done and work 11 hours. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And did you find yourself a lot more fatigued at work during the day because of walking?
I think my hour walking to work was really great. I felt really refreshed, and having that hour to think, just think and be with yourself is wonderful. I totally recommend it. Everybody should do it every day. And I felt a lot more alert at work. I got more work done. But once I started to get to the end of the day, I started to get really tired. And yeah, I think it was more getting home. All I wanted to do was go to bed. And when I was finished with my work, which means I wasn't allowed to cook or do anything until then, it was 8 o'clock at night. I don't want to cook anything. I literally have been eating vegan chicken nuggets all week, which is not healthy. So yeah, tired on one end, and on the other end, there's some really good benefits to walking to work. But I'm really stressed out and frustrated because I couldn't do anything on my lunch break that was efficient. So I still haven't put my rent in my bank. And I had to transfer funds, and there's no way I can make it in that hour all the way back downtown and back to work. And the bank closes before I can get off work. So I'm seeing where it could be potentially incredibly exhausting for someone who doesn't have the availability to have access to the internet and do stuff like that, or have a car. The bus won't make it downtown and back in an hour, that's for sure. So yes and no. Yes and no.
So do you have any advice for anyone who might like to try this experiment on themselves?
I think everybody should try it. It's a really great way to see where some of that idea of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work hard and you'll get what you want. Sometimes there's just physically not enough time in the day to improve, especially without a car and you're in a kind of rural area. There's just not enough time. But I think that everybody should try it and be prepared. Always have your raincoat in your backpack, because I definitely got rained on the way home one day. I got a really, really good soak. Carry a big water bottle and be ready for problems. You might be late to work because you're not walking as fast one day. I mean, you just have to really be prepared to do that. And in some ways, you just have to sometimes just say, okay, well, I'm going to deal with this. It's maybe a little more low maintenance, I'll say that. I was a lot more okay with getting rained on when I had to be. So, yeah. What do you think about it, Casey?
I think that it's really good to try to put yourself in the person's shoes.
Well, thanks.
Yes.
So, yeah, I will probably keep walking to work. I really enjoy it, but if honestly, tomorrow I have to drive. I have to drive. I have to go to the bank and put money in my account, or I'm not gonna have a place to live. So, I'm gonna say that I could not prove that I could do this. I only lasted 3 days, and there's also a shooting next to our house, and that makes me incredibly uncomfortable with walking to work.
Me too. Me too.
When you're stuck in a lower income area because the rent's so cheap, sometimes walking is not incredibly a great idea. And I find myself cutting through like where all the rich neighborhoods are so that I can have a nicer walk to work. I walked on the side of the road one day and it was miserable. So not doing that again, but yeah. So I will keep you posted on the next experiment, and I hope you guys enjoy.